But do you know there's something very similar between something Obama said and Anthony Bourdain said?
How do you like this set?
I like that we in the kitchen this time.
Yeah. Well, it's I don't know how cold it is outside. It's got to be like under 20 degrees. It's freaking freezing. So, do I have any hot spots on my bald forehead?
No. Someone was actually telling me, as per my idea of temperature, it is -4 degrees because it is
Oh
easier
Lord.
if you just
Yeah.
measure from 0 to 100.
It really is, but we God knows we couldn't go along with that. What is it, just us and the British that held out on that deal?
I think it's just you at this point.
Well, except the marijuana market has taught all of Americans about metric.
Oh, yeah.
Or the cocaine market. I guess I should include both of those. Hey, I must have said something on TikTok yesterday about some version of DRUGS or TERRORISM. And if you say stuff like that, they just slow down your rhythm. They don't kill your video. They just slow it down enough where it doesn't matter anymore.
Oh, yeah. I can imagine. See, there are certain disclaimers I have to put out, especially if we talk
Right.
about anything like that. And it just
Right.
shows instantly with the way it works.
Right. God, isn't that it is crazy. And since it's AI, it's there momentarily. I mean, and you just don't notice. Usually I'd have 1,000 views in an hour or two, and we've got like 150. And it was pretty salacious stuff. So today, I don't know if I told you about this, but are you familiar with the Daughters of the American Revolution?
No.
That used to, there's one group called Daughters of the Confederacy. You kind of got to be careful speaking there from
Okay.
obviously what it sounds like it is. But I'm getting an award for doing all of the school lunch stuff last year from the Daughters of the American Revolution. And so they evidently their members get to put in people's names and their activities. And I don't think it's volunteer of the year, but I did volunteer. But I don't know what the actual award is, but it's something along those lines for doing that project. And then evidently I'm in their national group for that because I won the state here.
Nice. Sean, I think you just need to run
Yeah.
for some political office at this point.
Yeah. So let me tell you what's happening. So here we have this website called maybe it's called Classmates or something like that, and it's all your yearbooks from not secondary school, I think is what you guys would call it. So our version of high school,
Hmm.
and so I got this notification. I've had 16 people looking at my high school yearbook, and I was like, "Oh, I'm being investigated," is what that tells me.
The criminal in you and me will just think investigation for
Oh
sure.
yeah. Well, I mean, so years ago, I signed up for this because I'd gone to a boarding school, much like and people all over the world, same deal like you, and it's just interesting to see what people are doing.
Yeah.
And the website was too difficult, so I just didn't mess with it, honestly.
Mhm.
But if you ever want to look at an old yearbook, they have access to, I don't know about where you're from, or in England, you're probably in about the same boat we are. They're all published and out there. But yeah, 16 visits recently, and you go, oh, okay, somebody thinks I'm running for governor. That's the only reason
Probably
they'd be doing all this.
that's the only
Right.
reason someone is going to go that in depth.
Right, from high school. Exactly. Because I'm interesting. I'm not that interesting, as you well know.
This gives me a great opportunity to fuck around with your Wikipedia page where I'm just going to say all kinds of random things.
Well, and let me find out what this award's called today, and we'll update the Wikipedia page from there. Well, what's not on there? It's not on there that I was vice mayor of the village or that I was city councilman or anything. What's on there is that I ran for county clerk. Is the
Oh,
only thing that's on there. Isn't that weird?
I guess, see, it also depends on submissions. So
Right. Yeah.
nobody must have submitted that update after the last
Yes.
time I messed with it and submitted something.
Well, we'll update that. How about that? We'll get that one updated. I don't. So I think what I would tell you is because I've given it a lot of thought, and I don't at this point. I don't necessarily. Part of me wants to do it, much like your reentry into stand-up comedy,
Hmm.
and then part of me doesn't want to do it because it's so crazy here.
Yeah.
We literally our school superintendent guy is, and look, I'm in the bar business. I see drug addiction, I see alcoholism, I see infidelity, all this stuff like other people don't see it.
Hmm.
And this dude's got chapped lips on the inside, and that only means one thing, like a glass pipe, perhaps, whatever you would smoke out of a glass pipe, which, folks, you can Google that one so we don't get knocked off YouTube. But there's some real issues there. And then he's got all those really right-wing nut job white Christian nationalist followers, and it's not worth getting shot for. If I didn't really think that there might be a threat to my life, which there has been, and you only need one person to get lucky. Terrorist organizations rarely have to be right, but government always has to be right. Terrorist organizations just need to hit one. So I won't lie, I'm still thinking about it, but I don't see myself doing it. I think what would be much more interesting is if you fed all of our interviews into AI and we had a book to sell that we can make money off of.
I will look into doing that.
Yeah, think about it. The effort, because you guys are doing it there. The effort is you give material we've already done.
Yeah.
And they write a book, and all we got to do is proofread it.
Mm-hmm.
And do you know anyone else that's done that?
You.
Right. Well, you know me, I believe in proofreading.
You have made me proofread your books.
I know. Well, and the big thing is, I've never found anything wrong when I've used AI to help rewrite stuff. Mm-hmm. And there's a guy that used like ChatGPT number 4 or whatever the number was to write some political speeches. Yeah. And I will tell you, they were West Wing worthy political speeches.
Nice, because it was probably trained on the entire script of all the seasons of West Wing.
But the deal is you have to be able to perform it. Sorry, I'm not sick. I got this like weeks ago in Sulphur, Oklahoma, and I cannot get rid of it, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's winter. It's winter.
Yeah. Everybody has just been having some sort of weird sniffle.
Sad. Well, you know what you look at and you go, first winter here. Can you imagine these poor pilgrims, whatever the invaders were, and those poor natives helped them out, just to only get slaughtered after that? But they should have just, sorry, fellas, we don't have any medicine. Kind of like it went the other way when the smallpox happened. So here's the thing. If you were in my position, and what would you be willing to spend 2 years of your life on? Because it would have to get you somewhere. So let's have the open conversation about this, because I don't really care if people listen in and know how I'm thinking.
Yeah.
But I'm looking at it from a different standpoint. Does this lead me? Because I'm not going to win. Or if I win, God, do I want the job?
Yeah, because that's another 4-year term?
4 years. And we're last at everything. So it isn't like you're going to have a cooperative Congress and a cooperative Senate. They're going to be equally as ignorant as they already are. Mm-hmm. So what happens if you win? Because then it's not a TV show. It's not funny. It's not a comedy. Every day you're showing up at 6 a.m. till 6 p.m. Mm-hmm. or 12 p.m. And do I have that kind of energy? And I think we are ripe for some weird outsider to go in and just tell everybody to F off, and they could probably get elected, much like Zelensky
initially did when he first benched. Yeah. Because he was originally...
he was an actor like me. He's rethinking his life choices.
But I am telling you, Sean, like the process of you running, since I have seen you run campaigns before and stuff like that, it is very similar to the analogy you actually made. It's like me stepping back into stand-up. It's like, do I want to go to all these open mics where there are like 3 people listening? Because that is exactly what you would also have to do. You'll have to go speak in some random fucking diner and butt-fuck nowhere and fucking entertain 3 people who barely give a fuck about what you're talking about. So that's the thing. It is almost the exact identical thing. And you do that for 2 years of your campaign to get elected?
It's 2 full years. And the difference between my wife, Kathy, who loved all of that, And she never spoke to only three people. They were there to see her because she was damn good looking, could speak really good,
Mhm.
and really meant what she was saying, which, I'll
Mm.
mean 80% of it, maybe 80, 85.
Mhm.
You and I know the political structure and how it works. If you actually want to win, I think we could probably get close. I don't know as governor because at the last minute people would just put in millions to make sure I did not get in. But
Oh
wouldn't
yeah.
it be fun? Wouldn't it be fun to make them waste that money?
Oh, I would do it
I
surely
mean,
just to make them waste money because I
right,
would find that
right,
hilarious.
right. Because we could force people to waste 10 or $15 million easily. So the question is, as you go, but what do you run on? Because our rural areas are too ignorant and vote completely red because they don't realize they're voting against themselves. And
Hmm.
they are literally just out to stick people like you and me that got fuck hell with them educated people. What do they know? And you're like, well, we got books. I mean,
We read
do you
them
want to do a book?
occasionally.
Right. So the interesting thing about that is now I've gotten rid of some coaches across the state.
Yeah.
Can I go to those districts or is that really dangerous for me?
I
These were abusers,
basically, can
folks.
I tell
Before
you,
anybody just yeah.
for the years that I've been around you, and at times where all of us had to stand facing the door of the pub just to make sure we knew who walked in, because none of us used to have our back. There were just a couple of
Right.
comfortable years, Sean, where I could stand with my back against your
There you go.
entrance.
There you
Thanks to
go. Right.
you.
Right.
So I
So that
think
hasn't
I
changed.
don't think I mean, there will be those nutbags considering how
Right.
weirdly emboldened and weird people are these days.
Mhm. Well,
Like,
so I'll give you an example. The Coach Coons video for the guy from Ringling that's still there, and his wife's at the school, and his kids are at the school. I mean, he is controlling the town. That
mhm.
video is getting 3.4 million views. We only have 4 million people in our state.
Yeah.
So my guess is there may be, 10 people that are mad at me down there, maybe 10,000.
Yeah.
Not the people in the town because they're perplexed, like they can't get out of it. And now
Mhm.
there's a federal lawsuit. So once it costs about, $8 or $10 million to get rid of this guy, then everyone will actually be mad.
Mm.
But in the meantime, they were not winning football this past year because of me. Like that's my fault, not the shit that he did.
I like that.
So
That is like the most important thing that they're clinging to in all of this, that they lost a fucking football game.
isn't that crazy? And it really is. That's so small town America. I went to boarding school in a place called Atchison, Kansas, and we
Hmm.
played these other small towns in the region, and it was bragging rights for the town to be the best person in football, which we only had 12 players and when we needed 11 on each side, we had
Hmm.
one spare, and he was about 4'6", and he was also the water guy. And
Yeah.
but we won half of our games. And everyone's like, "Oh, that's great," and I'm like, I don't know if this is safe because you have to play injured. Like if you're injured, you have to play. And we weren't pro caliber athletes, so we weren't learning anything. We weren't going anywhere. I'm not. I'm not sure it was worth it. But for whatever bragging rights there were, it was a big deal. And I don't know if that is worldwide or if that's just a colloquial American thing.
I think it is worldwide, Sean, because I've also noticed this in like different places. Like it's usually like people who are kind of like daily wage workers. They would always
Right.
tell me every game of that happens in the English Premier League, they'll know the exact scores, who are the players who played, who was benched,
Right.
things like that. Same thing happens with me here in cricket, where they'll be aware of the entire cricket game that happened and what happened in it. It's some sort of, I mean, I think it's like, isn't it like similar to the Colosseum and having gladiator games there? It was just a,
Give them bread and give them entertainment. I
mhm.
mean, that was the Roman way.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's just
Gee.
become, I think it's just spread that way, right? Throughout the
Yeah.
world.
Well, I mean, it makes sense. You keep everybody occupied because if they spent the same amount of time reading as they
Hmm.
do discussing or watching that kind of stuff, you got issues because you have people like me showing up to meetings, and if you get an objector that is an orator,
Hmm.
it is real problems. If
Yeah.
you or I go in and speak, people are, whether we want to admit it or not, they listen better because we know how to do it and we're trained to do it. Average guy gets in there and they're so nervous. They're, well, just thinking that, and no one's listening. But you get an experienced orator. Think of Obama. He was a junior senator from Illinois and became president the next time.
Mm-hmm.
Broke every caste structure that exists. Every caste structure was thrown to the side because he was a brilliant orator, and he was also a defender of people. Now, did he do that when he was in office? More or less, but his version of healthcare kept me from going bankrupt last year.
But do you know there's something very similar between something Obama said and Anthony Bourdain said? Because Anthony Bourdain always said that you need to have that audacity to think that you have an interesting enough point of view to go on TV and say it. Whereas Obama's that entire book was called The Audacity of Hope, where he wanted to just describe why he even ran in all of these races. Right. I was like, yeah. And I was actually thinking about it and I was joking to a friend of mine. And I was like, dude, it's the same thing of the audacity to think you can go on stage and make strangers laugh. Isn't it all the same thing?
Right. Well, and I would, to be totally honest, since I've done both, getting on stage to make people laugh is harder. Because I already know why the audience is there when I'm speaking politically. Yeah. And I know half of the room is in my corner. The other half of the room, is doing daggers at me, man. Daggers, get rid of that liberal guy. There is something to be said for that. And look, Anthony Bourdain's, which one of his parents was an English professor. I mean, yeah, he read books. So God forbid we go to the free library and learn something, or the free access to this thing called the internet that never seems to die.
What is that amazing insult? You look like someone who doesn't know what a library card is.
I always said I would never date anybody that didn't have a library card. And I legitimately mean that, because you go, all this stuff's free there. So we have an app here. I know we're kind of getting off topic here, running for governor, but it matters. We have an app here called Libby, and there are 950 audiobooks on Libby.
Oh, wow.
Any subject matter you want, you just do it, and you don't even download it on your phone. It just sets it up on your phone and you start playing. And it's free.
Yeah.
Not bad. I read a book about your people called Caste, C-A-S-T-E, and how it applies to America. And that, my man, was an interesting read, but that would take an entire 20 minutes. So we can't get into that today.
Today, I actually had to meet a client of mine at a cafe, and everybody was on their phone till I heard the volume on it, and they were playing Counter-Strike, which is like a game, like a first-person shooting game. But Sean, the hilarious part was they were playing each other. So they were like two tables yelling at each other, like, get out of my way, you're blocking my sight. And I was like, what the hell is going on?
My God.
I used to do that when I was in like university, where we used to...
Of course you did.
We used to go hijack the entire computer lab, and we would divide ourselves into teams. But we had to do it in the computer lab because none of us had like personal computers and laptops at that point, right? Whereas these kids were doing it on a mobile phone, Sean. That's how far that game has evolved.
Dang. Okay, to take this to another level, so I had a guy send me 4 different videos that he'd made with AI, with our school superintendent like being attacked, had stuff thrown at him, and so I'm going to send them on to you so you can have a look. They are shockingly good, like California video quality, and that comes from the gamers. Your little friends that have moved us forward in politics. Because if I didn't. And I'm looking for that. I'm looking for the fraud in any of that. I was like, okay, that's good enough. If you showed it to me, I'd go, oh shit, well, good. He finally deserves that. Something along those lines. That good.
They're like, I love that now Facebook and Instagram have decided not to fact check. So I wonder how many of these stupid videos are going to go there and people are going to think that those are real videos.
When people want to know why kings lasted so long, we need to watch America right now, because we are falling in line. But look, I mean, I hate to say it, I'm from the privileged class here. It doesn't affect me, and probably doesn't really affect my children. Yeah, but eventually, I will either have to publicly take the risk of speaking out, which I already do, or shut up like everybody else and just make my money.
Hmm. Wasn't there
So, but
that? There's still this one thing I remember about that Fox News anchor who once told LeBron James, "Shut up and dribble."
yeah, how'd that work out for him?
I know.
You know the funny thing that I would tell you here, because you're not in the middle of it, and I
Hmm.
don't know how it must look batshit crazy to you over there, but it is a daily deluge, and it's so much stuff you
Hmm.
can't even pay attention to it. And Donald Trump's doing this weird stuff like we're going to change Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of USA, and saying we might militarily take Greenland and all.
Oh,
He
yeah.
just eats up all the air in the room, man. I mean, this dude is brilliant at that.
Huh.
That's the other problem. If I ran for governor, I would literally have to compete with him on air, and he's
Oh,
not even here.
can I tell you this thing? I'm going to send you a link to a book by the guy who actually ran Putin's campaign back in the day,
Yeah,
Vladislav something. I can't remember his last name. It was called Non-Linear Warfare. Okay. So when he used
right,
to manage Putin's campaigns, he used to give money to like pro-Putin parties and anti and far left parties. He used to
right.
fund everybody because he
Because
wanted
he
to keep
wanted to
the
fight.
audience. Yeah, no, he wanted to keep the audience so confused that Putin looked
Oh,
like the perfect candidate, where
yeah,
they
that's smart.
wouldn't they wouldn't if you don't know who your enemy is, you do not you'd know who you want to vote for because there's only one guy standing there who looks like he's not the enemy and helping everybody,
Right.
whether they're for him or against him. Yeah, it was a genius book. I need to get that
Wow.
to you. I'll send you
Yeah.
that link.
Send me that.
Hmm.
Send me that link. The challenge here is getting voices. So I can get into rural Oklahoma on TikTok.
Yeah.
And I'll guarantee you, if I ran for governor and was successful, they would just ban TikTok in Oklahoma.
Oh, yeah. I wonder whether
Because
they.
that's the,
I think they probably already are looking at it, Sean, because you get so many views on there.
oh,
Yeah.
well, they just, it's because there's no other way to get there. You go to any cafe, anything, it's Fox News. Everything is Fox News. Like it is propaganda central.
Yeah.
These folks don't even know what propaganda is. When I say them folks, I really do mean the folks that are still there because most of the other more educated folks left. And I'm not saying that everybody there is stupid. That's what somebody will take what I said to mean. It isn't that in the least bit. They just don't know how this works. But you did BBC, I did Cablevision. We actually kind of get the inside of how you make something look,
Hmm.
and you and I could package it up, and you just go. But TikTok's the only avenue, and there's another thing called farm radio. But farmers aren't out on tractors like they used to be.
Yeah.
They're just not. So it's going to be interesting. Anyway, you and I can talk about this over and over and over again. I don't mind, but I don't know if I want to spend 2 years at it. You know what I mean? Or
It's
would I prefer to be in Buenos Aires or go see you and do some other stuff that's fun?
yeah.
Less to talk about, but more fun.
Plus, we still have to get on stage together and just give each other shit. Somebody told me to
I
do
am
that.
more than willing. More than willing. All right.